Regeneus Ltd ASX RGS is a regenerative medicine company listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. And joining me right now is CEO John Martin. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Tim. Nice to be here.
You've just done a deal with AGC in Japan. Please tell us about that.
That deal's very exciting. It took us 18 months to do. Japanese companies of AGC size, it's a major business globally. It has net sales of about $13 billion a year, US dollars. They take time, took us 18 months to do. That deal in its essence has two parts to it. The first part is that AGC will be the exclusive manufacturer of our Progenza stem cell technology in Japan for all indications. And the second part of the transaction is that we're going to join together with them to license the clinical rights of Progenza to the pharmaceutical community in Japan.
So in the short term, what's the mechanics of that transaction for the company financially?
Again, maybe three key things. The first one is that they pay a license fee to access that technology, which is a $5.5 million payment they made to us up front. The second thing is we get milestones along the way, and they total $11 million of milestones from AGC. And we also are going to share the milestones and license fees from pharmaceutical companies that we license the technology to in Japan. So there are a series of different, if you like, income streams from this transaction.
In terms of a biotechnology company going to market, generally people consider that it's going to be a 5-year or a 10-year development cycle. But these transactions seem to indicate that you're going to be generating revenue and cash very early, which is out of the box for a biotechnology company.
Yeah, look, every biotech company wants to do licensing deals early because it allows them to monetize their technologies. And if they can do one very early, it may monetize it, but usually you find the risk is greater, so therefore the payment is smaller. So the longer a company can hang on, it'll do a better deal. In our case, our technology is a true platform technology, Progenza is. So we've got an opportunity for multiple licensing opportunities off the one technology platform. So our technology spans everything from bone and joint disease like osteoarthritis.
So it's not just for osteoarthritis, it's for a range of conditions.
Indeed. It's an inflammatory platform. So therefore we can treat many diseases that have an inflammatory indication, and that includes osteoarthritis, cardiovascular disease, rheumatoid arthritis, things like multiple sclerosis, pain generally. So that's why it's an exciting technology, because we've got various licensing opportunities, which we've been progressing in Japan now, apart from the AGC transaction, now for 12 to 18 months.
Can I ask a question? Generally when you consider, funding or developing a biotechnology product, you'd think US and FDA. What was attractive about Japan, and why did Japan come in there first?
Well, a very good question. Everyone assumes Australia goes straight to the FDA. The reason why we've gone to Japan, and many other international companies in our space have done so, was in 2014, Prime Minister Abe identified regenerative medicine as a next generation medicinal product for the Japanese market. And he wanted to promote this space. And so in short, what we did was we looked at what they were doing, which was opening the gate for regenerative medicine products by removing the requirement to do a phase 3 trial to get to a conditional approval. And they made the gate pretty wide. So Progenza type technologies will be able to go into Japan, and after a phase 2 study only, if we can show safety and probable efficacy, you will get conditional approval for that product to get access to the Japanese market. And the other key thing that they did was the Japanese government said, we will reimburse that product. So they're giving you reimbursement, a shorter timeline to access that market, which has really seen, Australian, European, American companies all flood into that Japanese market. We're not the only ones. It's a crowded party up there right now for business in our space. And there's more deals being done in Japan in the last 2 years since those laws were passed than any other major market in the world.
Can we talk about competitors for a second? What's the competitive landscape for the product?
For our osteoarthritis product, there are other cell-based osteoarthritis products out there. There's a South Korean product called Invosa that was recently licensed to Mitsubishi. There's some American products and some European products that are looking at our space. But I think we see ourselves as having one of, let's say, a handful of products chasing osteoarthritis. We see ourselves having a better product because it's easier to manufacture, so therefore hopefully cheaper. We see it using adipose or fat-derived stem cells, which have better characteristics for expanding and turning into a product. Plus we have our own secret sauce that we call our secretions technology that we put into the product. So I think we'll be competitive in that market. There will be other people there, but we have no doubt that we will be competitive, and AGC will help us be very competitive in that market.
Now, you've just had a research organisation cover the company, and they've wound down all their estimations, and they've come up with a very favourable outlook for the company. What are your comments on that?
Yeah, look, Edison, they're a global investment research house. They provide research on companies globally, including the regenerative medicine space. We use them because they cover many, many companies in our sector internationally. So we're looking for a knowledgeable group who really know what's going on in our marketplace. And it's hard for Australian brokers to pay attention to our global space.
Because they don't have the experience in that space.
Well, and correct, and there may be a few companies in Australia that chase it, but internationally there are many more. So anyway, I suppose my point is that Edison have put us as a valuation at the moment around a bit over $100 million, which is certainly substantially higher than our current market cap. But I agree. What they've done is they've been very cautious on the assumptions, and they will unwind those assumptions as we de-risk all of our technologies as we march into licensing, clinical data points, and everything else.
Which is my next question. What do you see for the next 6 months for Regeneus?
Well, I think the thing that the market's looking for is we read out on our osteoarthritis trial here in Australia called the STEP trial. And that's a study of Progenza for phase 1, and we're looking at safety and some early efficacy points. And the readouts in the last quarter of this year, so last quarter of this financial year, so it'll be in May, around May. So the market will be looking closely at that. Market will be looking for the results of our licensing activities together with AGC in Japan, seeing whether we can do the sorts of licensing deals that they expect to come off the original AGC transaction. We've got some other data points coming out in the year which I think will excite investors. But overall, I think that it's our Japanese strategy which will be driving, and our Progenza data, which will really drive the market interest in where we are in the short term.
For investors watching, Regeneus Ltd is on the ASX stock exchange, RGS. John Martin, thank you very much for coming in today.
My pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.